Call the meeting to order, City of University Heights City Council meeting. It's November 8th, 2022, and meeting is being conducted tonight electronically by Zoom. All five council are present. Let me click this off here. And first order of business is approval of minutes, October 11th and October 24th. Are there any additions or corrections to either minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Any comments from members of the public? Jim Lane's present tonight from the public. Do we see anybody else? Jim, did you want to speak? No, maybe not.
No.
Okay, anyone else from the public that wants to speak tonight? Okay, we'll move on to a mayor's report. And first thing is consideration of resolution 2239. Approving and what does it say? Directing, for the annual report for FY22. And Steve Cool is here tonight to present that. Steve?
Yes.
Thanks.
I'm ready.
Coming. Okay.
You're welcome. Okay. We'll wait till we get okay, there we go. Okay, this is the annual financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. The first page is the summary of all of the activity for the year. Following first page, there's several pages of detail on a lot of the items that make up page one. And then there's some supplemental information in the back. So I'm pretty much going to go over just the first page. This is the cover page. Okay. So in the number columns, column A, governmental, these are all the funds that we use. We don't have any proprietary funds. And then on the far right column is the budget that we had amended this past April. A lot of the actual and budget numbers came out fairly close. There were some that came out a little bit more than others, some a little bit less than others. Let's see here in the receipts here, most of the property taxes and everything came out close to the total, including the TIF revenues. Other city taxes, $220,000. The bulk of that is the hotel motel tax. Let's see, and then intergovernmental, that ended up $279,000 versus a budget of $252,000. We actually ended up with more road use tax receipts than we had were expecting back in April when we amended the budget. So total revenues and other sources, which is basically transfers in from other funds, just a shade over 2.9 million. Total budget amount was 2,880,000. So those came out close. On the expenses, public safety, this is school crossing guard, building inspection, police. That ended up just being just a little bit over budget. Most of that difference was back in April. We had estimated the police wages for the year, and that was the best guess we could, based on how much anticipated overtime we'd had and maybe some extra services for other, patrol and safety purposes. Public works, that's predominantly streets and trash removal. That was under budget. Culture and recreation, that ended up being over budget. We had one thing that came up very late in June, and that was emergency repair replacement to the air conditioner at the community center there. And that was, I believe that was $8,000 or something like that. So that was something that it just happened late at the end of the year. We couldn't have amended the budget to include that, but we had revenues for the year to cover that. The next line, community and economic development, that ended up being about 10,000 over budget. That the bulk of that, practically all of that, is the TIF development agreement. And that's based on 95% of the receipts for the year. The actual TIF receipts on the TIF revenue line was about the same. The extra money came from the business property replacement tax and then also the backfill money, and that was about 14 or 15,000, somewhere in that range. So we ended up paying a little bit more out to Jeff Maxwell on that payment than what we were expecting. Then debt service was over by just a little bit. There were it was a timing on payment of the servicing fees for the banks for that. So we ended up with total expenditures and transfers out $2,643,000 versus budget of $2,623,000. So we came out just a little over there. Excess revenue, excess of revenues over expenses for the year. We ended up with positive on the side of 264,000 versus budgeted of 2X. So anyway, everything came out pretty close all together. We do have, we had $587,000 of cash going into the beginning of the current fiscal year here. And as you recall, back in July, we had the 2 bond sales. That was a little over $1 million. So we have plenty of cash sitting on hand right now, but the bulk of that is all obligated for capital projects and other things. So then down at the bottom, right below that, let's see here. There's a little schedule just a little ways further down the page here. Indebtedness at June 30th, 2022 on the 3 outstanding bond issues. We had total principal outstanding of $1,165,000. Just over to the right of that, the general obligation debt limit is $9,353,000. So we have only borrowed about 12.5% of our total bonding capacity. So that's pretty much the summary for the year. The timing on this, tomorrow I will finish up the publication for the newspaper. We're anticipating that it will be published next Wednesday, November 16th. Once that's published and we get a publication proof, then Mike can send in the paper copy, and that will be on file with the state. And then I also transmit the file. So that was pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Just everything came out pretty much as we were anticipating back in April.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Steve? Okay, consideration of resolution 2239 is before you. Is there a motion?
A motion.
Motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lisa. Discussion?
I think that was actually Stephanie.
It was.
Oh, was it Stephanie? I'm sorry. Sorry, Steph.
No worries.
Or Lisa, yeah. Okay, so motion by Bobby, second by Stephanie. Any discussion? Then a roll call vote. Mike?
Don,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And thanks, Steve, for your work on that this year. And so we'll get signing whenever you email us.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Okay.
I'll be in touch with you and Mike soon. We'll set days and times to get this paper copies and everything distributed.
Because it's due December 1st, right?
December 1st, yeah. So
Okay.
hopefully we can get this all taken care of by the end of next week.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I appreciate your work on
Welcome.
this. Okay, we'll go on to Mid-American Energy Community Link. Whit Murray is our customer service rep, and she's here tonight. Hi, Wim, welcome. You wanted to give an annual report.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, actually, I just wanted to connect with you guys and attend a city council meeting, which I can't believe it's November already, and I hadn't done it yet. So I think Luis let me attend this time. I am a business connections manager at Mid-American Energy, so I work with commercial customers and manage their accounts. But I also happen to be the community link for University Heights. We have a community link for each of our communities, which means I can be your first point of contact for anything to do with Mid-American Energy. In fact, I'm working on something with Lisa right now, so, which I'll get in touch with you tomorrow. But yeah, so I just wanted to make you guys aware and get to see who's on the council now and hear some of the issues that are going on with University Heights. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me.
Just to remind the council, again, I think they met you last year too, but you have been very helpful when I reach out to you for Mid-American to ask questions. You follow up when a resident asks something about their property and the lines. You're very good at, and so this is the person you contact, Wim, if there are any questions like that. And you've been very good. You helped us through the derecho and that whole thing too, as they know. But we also appreciate your the Mid-American Energy Community Grant. You know, that's we're very appreciative of that. And you know, that's been very nice of you to do that. It's $500. And this year's application, I want to put in money for some improved farmers market signs. And Lisa asked that the committee for the website renewal, you know, when we update it, that we hire a professional photographer to update some of our pictures, because the pictures have to be according to the website, and you really need a professional photographer who knows what he's doing. We can't just use our phone cameras.
Well, as someone who's married to a photographer, I would agree with you.
Oh my goodness.
Probably a conflict of interest in hiring him, but if you need somebody, I'm sure he knows photographers. So.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Wim. So are there any questions for Wim tonight? Okay, thanks so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then we'll go to consideration of resolution 2238, confirming appointments to city boards. And as you saw in Attorney Ballard's legal report, I have two recommendations for zoning commission. One's a reappointment of Alice Hagen, whose term has expired. And also, I need to fill a vacancy left by Karen Franklin, who has moved out of town. And I recommend appointment of Jay Specking. Let's see, let's get a motion on the table before discussion for resolution 2238. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Louise.
Motion by Lisa. Is there a second?
I can second it.
Second by Doug. Okay, discussion? Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales,
Aye.
Gahn,
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. So now we'll go to the attorney report, and this is first consideration of ordinance 251, and this is about golf carts. And Steve, do you want to say a few words about it? Kind of
Sure,
make
I'm
the
happy.
report a little concise, you know.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Well, I listed a lot of things in last month's report in terms of kind of options that the council could consider if the council was inclined to authorize the operation of golf carts on city streets. And the council last month appointed a committee, council members Scott, Mayor Fromm, Chief Kelsey, and me. And we looked through things. I wasn't much of a policy guy because I'm the city attorney, but I collected the thoughts and it was part of the discussion anyway, and came up with the ordinance that is before you is ordinance 251. You know, as I said in my report, it permits operation of golf carts. It you know, the rules of the road apply. So just so you know that any laws that would apply to a motor vehicle would apply to a golf cart. You know, there was the one point of decision for the council is whether to permit any passengers under 6. And I set that out in an alternative fashion in the draft ordinance with the idea that the council can discuss that point. And obviously, if the council was inclined to adopt the ordinance, then it needs to say which option of those alternatives the council wants to select. And as I also tried to make clear, you know, if the council doesn't have to adopt the ordinance at all, but I'm happy to answer questions. But I think the ordinance was fairly self-explanatory, and we kept it pretty short, and that's what I can tell you.
Steve, could you go over the rules of an ordinance and
Yeah.
readings of thank you.
You bet. So the default, the sort of presumption of the Iowa Code and the requirement of the Iowa Code is that the council will consider an ordinance 3 times before it's passed. So you know, if the council wants to, the council may, by a vote of 4 council members, the council may collapse those 3 readings into 1, or it can collapse the second and third one into 2, something like that. The history of the council and frankly, my advice over the years has been that if there's something that's sort of an emergency in that sense, that sometimes the council does collapse 3 readings into 1. But in the absence of some timing or other emergency type issue, the history of the council has been to at least consider an ordinance twice. The idea being that, you know, maybe the word gets out among the community after the first reading, and people can show up the second time and say, hey, I missed the first one, and whatever. There have been many times over the years that the council has always taken 3 readings, so 3 months to enact an ordinance. And there have been quite a few where the council has said on the second reading, hey, you know, we considered this last month and really there wasn't any community feedback and nobody showed up for public input, so we'll go ahead and collapse 2 and 3. But I guess it's, you know, it's been the practice of the council, and I guess it would be my suggestion that you at least consider the ordinance twice, but you have the power to do what you want, and I want you to know that as well.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions for Steve?
I
About
do.
any-
I
Okay.
have one real quick. Steve, if this does not seem to work out and it becomes more grief than what it's worth, what would be the process to rescind this ordinance?
Yeah, that's a real good question, Doug. And maybe that goes back to what I just said about, you know, emergency type circumstances. If for some reason the council adopted this ordinance and it was just a disaster, you know, hopefully not public safety, but something, the council can rescind it in one fell swoop, one meeting. Okay. But the process would be to sort of undo it the way you got into it. So typically to rescind an ordinance would take the same 3 votes because you're rescinding, you're not adopting an ordinance, but you're taking action on an ordinance. But the council clearly would have the prerogative if it saw fit to collapse those votes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Bobby, you want me to go first or you want to go first in discussion?
No, go ahead, Louise, that's fine.
Okay, I actually took some notes here, so I'd keep it short and concise. Yes, as Steve said, the committee met last Thursday, and because golf carts will be driving with other motor vehicles at the same speeds, we were all concerned about having enough safety features. And in the discussion, that there were a lot of give and takes on both sides after discussion. And I want to focus on the one option that we didn't all agree upon. And I feel it's unsafe for little children 5 and under sitting without seatbelts or sitting on older siblings' laps or parents' laps is just unsafe. This is not allowed by Iowa law, of course, in motor vehicles, and I believe it's more dangerous in an open golf cart. In researching golf cart accidents, many times passengers are thrown off of golf carts because they're open. And UH has a population of about 1,228 as of 2020, but it's not a small town, classified as a small rural town, as a lot of towns that size, because we're surrounded by a city with a population of 60,000. So we're considered an urban city. And other urban cities, not all of them, but lot of ones that I looked at, when they have a golf cart ordinance, they don't allow children under 6. And some of the the rural cities, I see them having that where they don't have that rule. I want to ask that we please keep our tiniest residents safe and support the option of no one under 6 can ride in golf carts. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Louise. And yeah, Louise is right. This is the one thing that we really didn't, agree on. I certainly appreciate the sentiment and, the just desire to keep kids safe and no hard feelings there, I guess, in any way. But I kind of think my personal take is, with this, that's the decision that we can leave up to the parents. And, I'm just, practically for my family, we would be fine, with that. Obviously it's a risk and we would understand that, but we would just have to, you just have to be careful. And so my personal preference is that we would not make that stipulation, I guess, if you will, or that limitation, but we would just, just go with, basically, if you're looking at that, my recommendation would be to go, my preference would be to go with 4B, which, kind of clarifies that, which says the children under 6 need to sit on, parents or a lap or something. So that was I think that's the real decision that we can, that's the one thing that is not set, at least in the way Steve's put the ordinance together right now.
Any other comments?
Well, I'll say something. We are part of the larger metro area. We have a lot of game day traffic. And even if you take that article that was in one of the legal reports from the Pew Trust website with a few grains of salt, golf carts do have some significant safety issues. So And an accident, you know, you can be as careful as you want to be, but if somebody else does something, I just wouldn't want to take that risk for anybody. So I hope you will add in the part about not allowing children under 6.
Are seatbelts mandatory equipment?
No,
Okay,
when we looked at that, I've looked at the fleet over at Finkbine and going to the games. I've looked at all the golf carts at Finkbine. There's no seat belts, but you can order them on Amazon, I see. And I do have experience with a golf cart because at our residence in Okoboji area, we just bought a golf cart for this year, and we bought every safety feature we could, and they didn't say a word about seatbelts. And so we decided that we go without seatbelts.
Mhm.
But of course, because it's rare you see one with a seatbelt. Have you seen them, Doug? With
oh yeah,
seatbelts?
I've seen them. Yeah, a lot of them are tucked down in the seat and you don't even notice they're there, but they are in the bottom. So I think they mostly are equipped. It's just people just choose not to use them. And I guess my personal view is, you know, I think it's going to be personal choice as far as if they use them or not. And I think there has to be some personal accountability. If you choose to buy a golf cart that does not have, you know, seat belts, just for the sake of conversation, I think that would liability should fall on the owner. So I kind of see it as the owner should take full liability and ownership of any safety concerns. I mean, you can only be as safe as you want to be. You know, if the vehicle does have seat belts and you choose not to wear them, I mean, if it's an ordinance that you must wear seat belts like a moving vehicle, that's one thing. But if they're not equipped or if they are equipped, I think that's, you know, up to you. You know, whether you even bought a new car today, you know, would you buy a car without seat belts? Probably not. But there are a lot of people that probably do not wear seat belts, unfortunately. But
I'd be happy to have the ordinance with seatbelts. Are you thinking you want to do that? Add
I think they
seatbelts?
should be equipped. As far as wearing them,
Mine's not equipped. With
I
seatbelts.
I think it's, well, go ahead, Doug, finish your thoughts if you want to.
no, I just think that if the vehicle is equipped, you know, I think it's up to the liability and the ownership of liability should fall upon the owner of the golf cart. Whether or not you want to make seat belts mandatory like cars, you know, I guess that would fall in line more of, you know, if you're going to treat golf carts like cars, well, yeah, you have to wear seat belts. They're mandatory. Should we have to have them on golf carts mandatory? I mean, I ride a motorcycle every day. I don't have seat belts on my motorcycle, but you know, I'm going to go flying down the street on my face. So I don't know if seat belts would really help you all that much.
We talked about this a little bit in our meeting, and Troy, do you want to chime in on that regarding the safety aspects of, you know, golf carts and speed and seat belts and so on and so forth?
From a public safety concern, the speeds in University Heights are if we go with current posted speed, the maximum speed is 25 miles per hour. So from a public safety concern, I mean, I totally understand that, you know, if you're going, I mean, speed is always a factor of an accident. If you're going 0 miles an hour, you're not going to get hurt. You might fall down, you might hurt yourself impacting with the ground, but there's no speed component. And as you increase speeds, things become, I guess, more dangerous. There's more risk of injury. And as speeds go up, of serious injury and death. At 25 miles an hour and less, I don't have an overriding public safety concern. I did accident investigation. I agree with everything that everybody said. We want to look out for the best interest of our community, but I also think from a public safety standpoint that those risks are manageable and and can be accepted or declined by the users. You can choose not to ride in a golf cart if you don't want to. To Councilor Swales' point, whether you require seat belts to be equipment or not, if the person operating the golf cart was concerned and wanted to have that extra layer of protection in, he or she could equip their vehicle with seat belts. But from a public safety point and from an accident investigator and reconstructionist point, for the speeds that we'll be operating and in our community with our major arterial streets, if you will, having 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, I don't have an overriding safety concern. So it really comes down to what council wants in their community.
Steph and Tim, what are you guys' thoughts on the 6 and under, the age limitation on the passengers?
Yeah, honestly, I'm more inclined to agree with or think along the terms of the not limiting it, like you had suggested, Bobby. I feel it's a parent's, own prerogative how they decide to let their children ride or not ride. And I don't think we should be limiting it, but that's my feeling. Tim?
I don't have a strong opinion. I mean, I can see both sides of it. I don't know if one of the proposals on the table is that children under 6, if you're going to have them on the vehicle, that they have a seat belt. But I don't have a strong opinion.
No, that's not one of the proposals. I mean, you guys.
Well, I know it's not one of the ones that's written out. It is. We started talking about seat belts, and I didn't know if that was part of what was being proposed as an alternative.
Yeah, I guess going back to the seatbelt thing as a big picture thing, I think that's a really big hurdle to jump on when you're talking about seatbelts on golf carts, because I think most of them don't have them. It's a whole different conversation when you're building a golf cart now for seatbelts. I just don't think that's a realistic thing, I guess. It's like, in my mind, it's similar to like seatbelts on a motorcycle, kind of, you got an open top type thing. But regardless, yeah, I don't know. My thinking on the age thing is, obviously my kids would be crushed if I said, yeah, sorry, you can't ride on a golf cart. And that's part of it. But I think the big picture thing is, for parents to be able to make that decision for their family, and obviously they've got to be okay with the consequences too. If something were to happen, that'd be terrible. But that's, I think, their decision to make.
Well, that kind of goes along with what I'm saying. I don't know if you should make seatbelts mandatory. I think if you do feel that the sake of safety, by all means, equip your golf cart with seatbelts. If you choose not to, don't. But I don't want to be the person that forces that down somebody's throat either. If you feel the need to put them on, and if you don't want to, do not. If it becomes an issue, then maybe we should address that down the road of, make them mandatory at least, or, before we throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing.
So, Luis or Steve, what's next step, I guess, in terms of kind of picking on the 4A or the 4B? If you guys on page 21 of Steve's thing, 4A or 4B, what's kind of the next step in that?
I think council, I think we should vote on 4A or 4B,
Okay.
right, Steve? I mean, make a
Yeah.
decision about it, and then they can decide if they want to vote for first consideration based on that, is what I read in
Exactly.
the report, right?
Exactly right.
Okay, so So Bobby, you wanted to maybe, option B, you wanted option B, right? Which
That's the-
is,
That, no golf cart shall carry more passengers than the number of seats the golf cart had when it was manufactured, except that children under the age of 6 may ride on another passenger's lap. So no
so
age,
option,
no age limitation, right?
right, so
B,
Uh,
my vote, yes.
why don't you make a motion for option B and we'll see
Okay.
where that goes.
Okay, well, I'll motion then for option
Okay.
B.
Okay, is there a second?
Yep, I'll second
Does
that.
Louise know we
Second.
can't hear her?
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can hear her. I don't know. Can you not hear her, Tim?
What? I'm gonna,
I can hear you, Louise.
I can hear fine.
Yeah, I can
Uh-oh.
too.
everything went crazy.
She can't hear now.
I mean, I just hit, okay, let me come back.
We can hear you. I never not
Okay.
didn't hear you. I don't know.
Well, Tim, yeah, I don't know. I'm not on mute, I don't
Mm.
think.
No, you're
But
good.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion for option B, which is no, maybe Bobby can say it again, just so it's clear to people.
Yeah,
I always
no,
like to be
basically
clear.
no age limitation. And if there are kids younger, they need to be seated on someone's lap, basically. They need to be safe. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then there's a second by Steph. So this is a simple vote. All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand so we can count.
Hi
Aye.
on that.
And then Doug
Yep.
and Tim. Okay, oppose. Okay, Lisa, so 4-1, we're gonna go with option B. No age limit, so then we can look at first consideration tonight with that option, right, Steve?
Exactly.
Okay. So first consideration of ordinance number 251, so does the council want to do first consideration tonight?
I
Yep,
would
I
consider
see
that, yeah.
yes. Okay, so I need a motion for first consideration permitting the operation of golf carts on city streets, establishing rules and regulations and requiring permits. Okay,
Please.
motion by Stephanie.
I can second.
Okay, second by Bobby. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Schroeder. Tim,
We
Mhm.
can't hear you.
you're on mute now, Tim.
Okay,
Aye,
thumbs up.
aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales,
I,
Gone,
Aye.
Moore.
No,
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to anything else in the legal report. There was a lot in the legal report. I guess it's, as we continue, we'll cover some of those things, right, Steve?
I think so.
Okay, very good. City clerk report, Mike?
I don't think I have anything to add to, well, maybe one other thing. Lori and I just nailed down, we will be doing our annual city audit with Kronlagi and Olson on December 20th. So,
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Mike? We'll go on to the treasurer's report, Lori. And she sent the warrant list. Do we have any, was anything else added? Did you get the Visa bill or anything?
Yeah.
yet?
I sent I emailed you all a link, but the CenturyLink bill is 10806. And the Visa bill is $326.49.
Thank you. Okay, with those additions, are there any objections to paying the warrants? Hearing none, the warrants will be paid by unanimous consent. And as at the very beginning of the meeting, Lori had said that she sent around a note saying that after 19 years, she's retiring, resigning, whatever the right word is. She's moving on with her family without us.
I'm
Darn
not really
it.
moving, though. I'm just not gonna be the treasurer.
Yeah,
anymore.
well, you're moving
I'll just-
forward without
I'll
us.
just be down the street and I'll be
You're-
available.
You're prioritizing other things. We get it.
I
As
know.
you should. As you should, Lori.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Lori, I mean, you're going to be dearly missed and really hard to replace. And we appreciate everything you've done for us and wish you and your family the best. But I wanted to talk a little bit about next steps. And I know that's why you announced it today, so that we'd have some time to discuss next steps. And I discussed this with Steve Cool because Lori a few days ago sent it to the Finance Committee and told us her plans without us. And Steve suggested we all contact people that we think may be interested, like going through the grapevine is a good thing. So I started doing that, contacting people that we know. They don't have to live in University Heights, and we'll get together a job description, and Lori has things on QuickBooks, so a knowledge of QuickBooks, you'd say, right, Lori? And
Yeah, probably.
and the good thing is Steve Cool said he would help us with paychecks if we need that. But we're hoping we find somebody and as good as Lori. And so and then the other thing, when I was looking up golf cart ordinances, I noticed, and this is before Lori had contacted us, I saw job opportunities on like Swisher, and I went, oh, they got job opportunities here. So I thought we could put something on our city website right away and get that up. And anyway, any other suggestions and then have people contact me just for a point of contact, me or Bobby, both of us, as we move forward with this. Any other suggestions?
No suggestions, just a question. Lori, I know this is really hard. It ebbs and flows, but on average, what would you say, like if we're talking to someone about this job, on average, how many, hours a month or week are you just generally committing?
It's probably 25 to 30.
A month? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Right.
And it's mostly the first week of the month after, or before the city count, after we get the bank
Mhm.
statement, after just getting all the warrants prepared for the city council meeting to be prepared. And
Yeah.
but
Yep.
then we do payroll every other week for
Officers and,
police and and so it's not just the one time
yeah,
a month, but the bulk of it is that first 2 weeks or up until the city council.
great.
And I'll be here. I can do, until someone's comfortable with whatever. I'll be here.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Any other questions or? Okay, thank you so much.
Louise,
Yes, yes.
I just want to,
Oh, Jim Lane, hi.
I just want to thank Lori personally, because I don't know when I'll see her. I don't
Oh.
see her as much, but my 6 years on finance, she did just a tremendous job, and I really appreciated that, Lori. It's good to
Thank
work
you.
with you, and good luck to you and Joe and the family.
Thank you.
Yeah, I echo that too. Thank you for everything you've done, Lori. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm still going to be here for the next few meetings. so,
I think Troy was clapping over there.
I see him.
On mute. Yeah, well, so any other questions for Lori about anything with the treasurer's report? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Lori, and we'll go to finance. And this is Steve will start discussion on this. 2234, with the urban renewal report and 2235 and 2236. Steve, you want to go over those first?
I'm happy to. So this is November is the month when the council considers what's called the annual appropriation of the One University Place TIF. TIF is tax increment financing. The idea is you take the value of a property before a development through a lot of different channels and options. A development is approved, and then you value the property as developed, and then you take that value as developed and subtract the original value, and that's the I in TIF. That's the increment. So, you know, how much have you improved the property economically, basically? St. Andrew was a church, so it was almost all exempt. So the starting valuation for the OUP TIF is very small. So it's almost all increment. The TIF development agreement, which I emailed around to everybody, adopted in August of 2015, provides that the council will consider every year an appropriation of the TIF. This particular TIF is what's known as a rebate TIF. So there are different ways to do TIFs, and I won't take tons of time on it, but there are examples in Coralville and Iowa City where the cities actually invest money into a project, and then the TIF is a repayment through tax dollars generated from that project to repay that loan. The TIF that the University Heights City Council selected in 2015 is not that kind of a TIF. This is known as a rebate TIF. So the only way that the developer of OUP receives TIF revenues is if the property owners of OUP pay taxes. So first you got to build something, then it's got to get taxed, then the people have to pay the taxes. And all of those things have happened and are happening. And I should say that the city, of course, owns City Hall, and it's exempt. So the city doesn't pay any taxes at all, period. So so the process is that the developer every October fills out a worksheet, and I sent that around to you, and the developer generates some assessed values based upon the Johnson County assessor's calculations, and then does this worksheet, and this is what's known as a 95% rebate TIF, and so the developer then takes the legislative rollback, multiplied by a kind of an assumed millage rate, and then comes up with an amount of tax that would be payable, multiplies that by 95%, and then requests that the city council rebate that amount in revenue, tax revenue. These revenues are we're a year, we pay taxes a year behind. This is an estimate. So the appropriation that the council is asked to make tonight is an estimate of taxes that will be collected in 23 and 24 and would actually be paid to the developer in June of 2024. I think earlier in the meeting, Steve Kuhl made the comment that our actual tax payment, our actual TIF appropriation payment to the developer this past year, I think was more than maybe we had anticipated. So two things about that. The anticipation in that regard, I mean, we're only paying back 95% of what we take in. So it's never a net loss or a net gain for that matter to the city. The point of not being right on in terms of the number is just that you're estimating, this far in advance. So the appropriation, the request for this year is $606,775. That's 95% of the TIF. The other 5% then is available to the city for certain specified projects that the city has identified. And that's this coming fiscal year 23-24 estimated to be 31,936. So the three resolutions, 2234, 2235, and 2236 all relate to the TIF. And I'll just take them in order and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But 2234 is the city's annual urban renewal report to the Iowa Department of Revenue. And so this is a form generated through the Iowa Department, I'm sorry, not Department of Revenue, Iowa Department of Management. This form is generated, the report is generated on a form available through the Iowa Department of Management's website. Steve Cool was kind enough to jump online and help get that one figured out. And so 2234 just approves the urban renewal report for FY22. So this reports tax receipts from OUP during the fiscal year 21-22 and the disbursement of those taxes. So that's what 2234 is. And if you want to, I guess, take them up in order, that would be the one that would be before you now, your Mayor.
So resolution 2234. Yes, and in a rebate TIF, it's interesting. And we don't usually hear that, but that means you have to do this annually. Right, Steve?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have our setup to consider it annually.
Yes, so that's why you see this last year, year before, yeah. So consideration of resolution 2234 is before you. Is there a motion?
All motion.
Motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second Louise.
Second by Lisa. Okay, discussion? Roll call vote, Mike.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales,
Aye.
Gahn,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And the second resolution is 2235.
That's right. And 2235 is an accounting measure where the city basically obligates itself to shift money from one fund to the other so that when the TIF money comes in, it can pay itself back. It's a little, I don't know, confusing to me but it's what's required for the city to access those TIF funds. So that's what 2236 is.
35.
35, excuse me. Thank you.
Yes, okay. So we have consideration of 2235. Is there a motion?
All motion.
Motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second again.
Okay, a second by Lisa. Any discussion? Mike, roll call vote.
Swales,
Aye.
Gahn,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And the last one is resolution 2236.
And 2236 is the resolution that actually makes the appropriation or puts everything in place to make the appropriation for fiscal year 24, 22, 23, 23, 24. And in the amount of $606,775 in rebate to the developer and $31,936, the 5% amount to the city.
Okay, that 2236 is before you. Is there a motion?
All motion.
Motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Doug. Doug beat you, Lisa. Any discussion? Okay, another roll call vote, please.
Going around the horn. Gahn,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Is there anything here that you wanted to discuss or add, Bobby, about anything with finance?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
I might add briefly, especially with Jim Lane on the line. I'll see if we can put some heads together, and it would be nice, I think, for the council to sort of see where we are. The TIF was a defined amount in total, and it was going to be payable over total maximum number of, I think it was 21 years. And frankly, we're way ahead. And so there will come a time in the next, I'm going to say 4.5 to 5 years when that tip will be gone. It'll be paid. And so those funds that you're appropriating back to the developer won't be appropriated to the developer. Now, the way a TIF works, you look at that $600,000 number, that's not all going to come to the city. The city will get the city's share of that, and that can be explained. But Jim Lane was instrumental, as were other council members, including Mike Haverkamp and the mayor at the time. So maybe we can put together a little, just a little update to the council to let everybody know where that stands. It will have an impact on the city's budget in a real positive way, and frankly, much sooner than anticipated.
thank you, Steve. Council wants to do that, correct? See where we are? Sounds good to
Yes.
everybody?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks. And so we'll go down to community protection. The chief is here and Stephanie's here. And you submitted your report. And I know you had a request in your report too. I didn't know if you wanted to review anything special or you wanted to just talk about that. Go
Sure.
ahead,
I don't
Chief.
need, thank you very much, Mayor. I don't need to review anything else unless anybody has any questions. We, University Heights, continue to have an excellent relationship with Kevin Sanders of the Iowa City chapter of the NAACP, and even at the next level up with the state chapter of the NAACP. And we converse frequently, we work together frequently. We are moving forward toward hosting next year's summit on disparity and justice in University Heights. It's not guaranteed or carved in stone yet, but it looks like that will happen at this current time. And one of the reasons they want to have it here is, one, the Courtyard by Marriott is a great facility, but they also want to showcase University Heights. We continue to be held up as an example of forward thinking, especially for a small community. That's kind of a tangent, but the last 2 years I've asked for council and city support towards sponsorship or making the summit happen. And although neither Kevin nor Betty have come to me yet, I fully anticipate they will. The summit is scheduled for December. And rather than come to you after the fact, I'd just like to ask that you again consider contributing the same amount, $500, towards the 2022 summit on racial disparity or justice and disparity, co-hosted by the NAACP. And it's in Ankeny this year, and hopefully it will be in University Heights next year.
Okay. Is there a motion for approving the $500 towards the Iowa Summit Justice and Disparities?
I'll make a motion, Louise.
Okay, motion by Steph. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tim. Okay, discussion.
This is also the subject of one of our autopsy reports.
Oh my. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Yeah, I'm hoping you can bring that to University Heights next year at the hotel. Would be really neat. And it would be in December, correct?
They are actually trying to currently schedule it for October. It would, they'd have to pick
Okay.
it's usually during the week, so it shouldn't conflict with football, but
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief on his report or anything else? Steph, did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. I know if you want to duck out, you might be going to dinner soon.
Thank you kindly. I will take you up on that, Mayor. Have a good
Okay.
night all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to streets and sidewalks, and Josiah and Ryan are here to talk about many things. That was quite a long engineer report. You've been busy, and we have resolution 2237 also with the snow contract. Do you want to start with that, Josiah and Ryan?
I'll start with the snow removal contract, the renewal. And yeah, so we have resolution 2237 before you tonight. It's for a renewal of the contract with Mark Phelps from Hawkeye Construction and Snow Removal, who's done this work for the city for, I think, maybe 6 years now or 7. The last contract we had was a 1-season contract. Intent was to sort of maybe get back to a longer contract, but based upon the fluctuation of prices and materials and things, Mark is more comfortable again doing a 1-season contract because he can sort of get his prices and everything lined up for the season to come for the most part, without trying to look into the crystal ball into the future too much. So a couple items from my report on changes to the proposed contract. So it's still a 1-season contract for this winter. The line item costs have increased in general. And then there were some changes made to reflect like adding some line items or taking things away based on, his experience over the years of things he typically gets asked to do that weren't quite spelled out exactly when we, first tried to come up with what the contract should look like. So he's got added an item for side street snow removal. I did want to point this one out. So we had typically had one price for removing snow from the streets, either the main streets or all the streets. Whereas we had different levels of other items depending on how much was needed. So one of the things he asked, which makes sense, is to split the snow removal into those 3 levels, just to reflect that if he comes and removes a 1-inch snow, that's a different effort and time than if it's 6 inches of snow. So that seems reasonable. There were a couple items that we removed. They were previously identified as bid alternates, and that went back to, like I said, 6 or 7 years ago when we were trying to bid out how to handle this. One was for clearing all the 8-foot sidewalks in town, Melrose and Sunset, and it's just something we've never done, and I don't really anticipate us doing that. So we just took that one out, and there was another bid alternate at that time for brine injection, which is not really something that is being done right now. And again, another item that was never used. And then he did include some line items, like I said, for some extra work requests, which have been handling sidewalk violations. So when the city notifies a property owner of snow removal violations, and then they'll call Mark out to take care of it. That was never really spelled out how that was handled. So he provided some hourly rates for the labor for that. And he also provided some rates for like loading snow. Sometimes we've had heavy snows or heavy back-to-back snows and there's just nowhere to put it. So he's been called in to like push it and load it up and then load it in trucks and haul it out of town. So that's reflected in there now of what exactly that would be. And then of note, Mark requested that we include a fuel surcharge provision. The reason for that is that obviously the price of fuel directly impacts his business, with his trucks and his equipment. And it's the one thing he's, obviously can't control the fluctuation of that. So we added a section with Mark's help, which we think is pretty reasonable. It's not like, if the price goes up 10 cents, he starts charging us. It's based on a like 50-cent increment in either regular fuel or diesel fuel, which he uses both for his equipment. And at that time, he was asked for, I think it's like a 2.5% increase on his per operation costs. So if the price of diesel fuel goes up another 50 cents, and again, I want to say he was very clear. He's like, I watch this all the time. This is my business. So if I see this thing starting to go up, I'm gonna notify the city in advance. This is not something I'm just gonna, spring on you. But so if he has $100 fee to do something, it'd be additional $2.50 to do that. So those are everything else is fairly the same. Those are the big changes or updates this year. So 2237 would allow you to, if you want to approve that contract with Mark as it's proposed here.
He's done a really good job for us. Doug and I talked to him over the phone several times, and Doug, wouldn't you agree? He's done a really good job for the city. And
Oh yeah, he's done an excellent job, and any callbacks or any concerns that go above and beyond kind of normal scope of work, he's always been glad to oblige our city with any above and beyonds that we ask of him, and he's been a real fair guy, and I think we have a pretty good rapport with him.
I agree. So consideration of 2237 is before you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion by Doug, and how about a second by Steph? Because she
Sure.
said that too. Okay, and then, so this is for resolution 2237 with the snow contract. Roll call vote.
Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales,
Aye.
Gone.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. So now we'll go down to, is there anything else, Doug? That,
I really don't have anything right now. No.
okay, thank you. Building, zoning, and sanitation, we have discussion of this is from when we had the work session. And Steve summarized this a little bit in his report. Steve, will you give a little summary of that?
Sure. Yeah, I did try to collect things and pool them a little bit into some thoughts and ideas, and I won't go through the individual items. I know you talked about it as a council at your work session, and I know that individuals have been attending various Board of Adjustment meetings and had further communications with me, and I'm sure with each other and residents alike. I think that the council has a prerogative to move forward or not in any fashion it wants. If the council wants some additional time to kind of mull this over a little bit itself and repackage it or discuss it, the council can do that and not do much of anything tonight. If the council wants to take the whole ball of wax on, so to speak, the council could proceed with a or with a special meeting and invite public input, something like that. The council could ask the zoning commission for help with some of these items to gather some public input and make recommendations back to the council with respect to ordinance changes or policy decisions that the council might make. So I guess that's my brief summary. Yeah.
Thanks for reviewing the choices too. I appreciate
You bet.
that. Did any of the council want to make a comment on any of that yet?
Well, I guess I'll say something and state thanks for your, as always, your work on this. And since we had the work session, I would like to suggest, I guess, that since we have a zoning commission now that has representatives from all three parts of the city, which is a nice thing to have, I think. I feel it would be helpful to get input from those 5 dedicated members of the commission, see what their recommendations would be on these issues and questions. Because I do like that they come from each of the 3 mythical parts of the city. North of Melrose, west of Sunset, and east. So
that sounds reasonable. What does anybody else think? Council has done that in the past, where they can get more input that way, and hopefully there's public that'll attend. I'm not sure, it's already November 8th and the holidays are coming through. I'm wondering, you know, even getting the public together at this point might not be the best time, but I think, you know, planning for January might be more reasonable too. I don't know. I'm just, does anybody else have an idea, different idea?
To me, it doesn't seem like an urgent thing, so I think waiting's fine. And getting their input seems like a good idea. It does seem like the ordinance should stand on its words and not rely upon people that were there when the ordinance was written to convey what was intended. So clarifications would be good.
Yeah, I agree with that, Tim.
Also think, just one more thing, I think we should maybe brainstorm on other ways to, rather than designing ordinances to the lowest common denominator to prevent things, figure out ways to draw people to University Heights. I don't know if there's such a thing as, you know, having a credit for families with children or some kind of something to make families that want to lay down roots come to University Heights and stay here rather than fostering what was called the tailgating enterprise sort of. Yeah.
Steve, Tim, one of the things we had talked about in the past, and it hasn't gone anywhere, but and that maybe that's on me, but some sort of like down payment assistance program that would incentivize that. But you know, maybe something you and I can kind of tag team and present to council.
Sure.
I guess I'll say, however, that, you know, this lowest common denominator thing, the council has to address some things in town. You are not going to attract people, and I would say you are about to start driving people away again if we don't address some of the issues that we're seeing. I mean, like I said, I've said it before, but I've watched things go bad fairly quickly in parts of town. It even hopped the little Sunset Divide there into the 300 block in the 20 teens. And there was a period when I was embarrassed to live in University Heights. And so things do have to be addressed. So.
So I'm hearing that council can wait and move this on the first of the year and get some input from zoning commission and then decide next steps from there. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what you think, Steph, too? Do you agree with that? And Doug?
Leave
Yeah,
the zone For sure.
yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, over the next month or so, Steve started with some questions in his report. And that was good that you wrote those down from the meeting. And over next month too, we might see if we want to work on that a little bit more in December. The questions that you gave us a start, Steve, on those. And I know council asked you to do that. And it'll be interesting to see what the zoning commission says on some of those things. Some of the people have been here for a lot of years, more years than some of us. And see what, like Lisa says, they're from, we kind of call it the three parts of town. The east and then the north and then the west, and see what they say. So is that, I think that gives enough direction, right, Steve, moving forward?
I think so. I think the timeline, it would make sense to me, you know, the holidays are a bad time and there's so many people that are gone and we've run into some issues with that in the past. My suggestion would be to proceed as the mayor outlined, and maybe the council can continue to think about things that it would like the commission to look into, funnel those, you know, to Tim as a building zoning sanitation chair, or to me, and then my suggestion is that Tim and I kind of, you know, keep going on with a working list and then communicate to the commission that the council would like them to look into some things. And with the council's permission, my thought on that list is that the commission would be asked to sort of address or look into these items, but perhaps not be limited to those. Maybe in the course of thinking of things or looking at things or receiving public input, there's other things that the commission might want to make recommendations on, and I would think that the council would be receptive to that.
Thanks, Steve. I think that would be agreeable to everyone.
Mhm.
And we'll put this on the agenda for next month and see some of the other issues. And of course, and then if we email things to you and to Tim, then we can discuss some of those things too. Okay, does that sound good to you, Tim? You're good.
Yes, it does.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forget you're on mute. Okay, great. Is there anything I'm skipping over with that somebody from the council wanted to say tonight? We'll move on then. Okay, thank you. Lisa, you had e-government report. And maybe you ought to, I know that the last leaf vacuuming is the week of November 14th. That's hopefully everything is down by then, that week. Do you want to add anything, Lisa?
No, I don't, Mayor.
Okay. Very good. Any announcements? Anybody has?
I have one, just in case anyone's interested. I just heard from Pat Yegi. 412 people voted in person at the community center today. She said over 200 people voted early, so that's
Wow.
over 600 voters. There are officially 836 registered voters in University Heights, so we're looking at a 75% or so turnout, which
Wow.
Once again, we're a community that does take its citizenship responsibility seriously.
And a non-presidential
Right.
year.
Right. And there were also 45 brand new voters who registered here today. So just thought you'd like to.
Oh, yes, that's
Little,
great
little
news.
political junkie note to pass.
Yeah,
along.
it closed at 8, didn't it? The
Yeah, it
polls
just
did.
closed.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Mike, for that. Any other announcements? Is there any objection to adjournment? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned by unanimous consent.